My name is Ika, and in my lineage and clan, we embrace a dark and ancient tradition, the eating of human flesh. This is my story, born from the depths of the Annang region of Africa, where the roots of our customs run deep and often into forbidden soil. Our people believe that the consumption of human flesh, though taboo among kinsmen, is a sacred rite when it comes to outsiders. It is a practice steeped in myth, blood, and the echoes of ancestral voices. I was raised on the fertile lands of our village, where I toiled as a farmer by day and became a hunter by dusk. The forest was both our provider and our executioner, a place where the wild creatures of the bush roamed freely, and sometimes, a lone wanderer would stray into our territory. I learned to track both animals and, on rare and fateful occasions, humans. In our culture, the flesh of those who were not of our blood was considered a delicacy, a bitter, yet necessary, part of our survival and ritual. One misty morning, deep in the forest, I embarked on a hunt with my trusted bow. The dense canopy muffled all sounds except for the rustle of leaves beneath my feet. I moved silently, every step calculated. In the distance, I caught a glimpse of a lone figure, an intruder, perhaps, or a desperate soul wandering too far. I raised my bow and, in a tragic moment of miscalculation, released an arrow. The silence shattered with a thud as the figure collapsed. Approaching with a mix of trepidation and ritualistic duty, I discovered that I had slain a human being. There was no time for sorrow, for the ancient rites dictated that the flesh of strangers must be honored with our customary preparation. I dragged the body back to my humble dwelling on the edge of the village. There, amidst the crackling fire and the pungent aroma of burning wood, I roasted the meat slowly, turning it with care over embers. I simmered a pot of pepper soup with the human flesh, blending local spices and herbs passed down through generations. The taste was bitter and metallic, a reminder of the price of our ancestral pact with the spirits of the land. Even so, as I ate, I felt the strength of my forefathers flowing within me, a power born of survival, sacrifice, and a tradition that demanded obedience. Yet, as sacred as this rite was, our customs forbade us from consuming our own kin. It was an unspeakable taboo, a violation of the blood bonds that held our family together. Ika, the man I was known to be, never intended to devour the flesh of my own people. But fate, as it often does, wove its tangled web. I was not only a hunter and a farmer, but also a man of land and dispute. A bitter feud had long simmered between me and my own brother over the inheritance of our ancestral land. His ambition and pride clashed with my quiet determination to sustain our livelihood. The feud deepened with each passing season, until even our children were caught in the crossfire of our bitter enmity. My brother's only child, young Ani, had become an object of my disdain. I detested the boy not out of cruelty, but because he reminded me of the bitter wounds inflicted by family betrayal. One crisp morning, as the sun rose over the red earth of our village, Ani approached me with innocent hunger. "Uncle Ika, good morning. Please, may I have a little akara? I am very hungry," he pleaded, his wide eyes filled with hope. But I, hardened by years of conflict and resentment, spat back, "Get out of my sight, Ika." My words were as cold as the wind that swept over the savannah, and in that moment, the seeds of tragedy were sown. The dispute between my brother and I escalated over the months that followed. Our arguments grew heated at community gatherings, and the whispers of our discord spread like wildfire. Yet, in our isolated home, our traditions and tastes remained unchanged even as we each indulged in our secret practice of consuming human flesh from those outside our clan. It was an irony that bound us together even as we fought. We were united in our dark customs but divided by our blood. One fateful day, as I prepared a meal of roasted human flesh and pepper soup, a recipe perfected through years of ancestral lore, my brother unexpectedly arrived at my door. His hunger for both food and reconciliation drove him to join me by the fire. Unbeknownst to him, the meat sizzling on the coals was not from a nameless intruder but from his own flesh and blood. In a cruel twist of fate, I had unknowingly used the body of his son, the young Ani, who had vanished earlier that day on the farm. We ate together as we always did, clinking our palm wine cups in a perverse celebration of our customs. Hours passed in silence until my brother's eyes filled with confusion and dread. "Ika," he began, his voice trembling, "Have you seen my son? It seems he has not returned from the farm, and now the day grows late." I maintained a facade of indifference, replying coolly, "Do let me know if he returns." His words, laced with a growing sense of alarm, echoed in the empty spaces of our bitter family legacy. Unbeknownst to him, the horror of his loss was sealed in every morsel he had consumed. When the realization finally dawned on him that he had unwittingly feasted on his own son, a storm of grief and fury erupted in our village. The discovery of Arne's lifeless body sent shockwaves through our community, igniting a fury that none could quell. Accusations flew, and the long-standing enmity between kin spiraled into an all-out conflict. I, burdened by the weight of my actions and the irrevocable curse of our ancestral customs, had no choice but to flee. Under the cover of night, I left the burning chaos of my village behind and sought refuge in a distant town, where the memories of my past were not yet known. In the shadows, I carried the sorrow of a family torn apart by betrayal and the bitter taste of forbidden flesh. Thus, my tale does not end in triumph, but in tragic exile. The blood of our ancestors courses through my veins, a constant reminder of the choices I made and the traditions that bound me. I am Ika, a hunter, a farmer, and a man cursed by the legacy of cannibalism. The sins of our past haunt every step I take, and the echo of Arne's laughter and my brother's anguished cries will forever resonate in the silent corridors of my soul. And so, as I wander through unfamiliar lands, I carry with me the knowledge that some traditions are so deeply ingrained, so interwoven with our very identity, that breaking free from them may come at a price far steeper than mere exile. The dark lore of my people, the forbidden feast of human flesh, remains a grim testament to the depths of our heritage, a legacy as bitter as the earth from which we sprang. This is but the first chapter of my journey. The scars of my actions and the weight of ancestral curses will follow me always. I leave behind a fractured family and a village forever changed by our unholy practices. I can only hope that, in time, I may find a path to redemption or at least a measure of peace amid the tumult of my sins. Watch out for part 2, for the story of Ika, the cursed man of the Annang, is far from over.